Hey everyone, welcome to the Oasis podcast. I'm your host, Miss AJ. Thanks for tuning in. An oasis is something that provides refuge, relief, or a pleasant contrast, and that is exactly what you will find tuning into the Oasis podcast. This is a space where I and special guests will be cultivating intentional and honest conversations about life's journey. Subscribe everywhere you listen to podcasts and watch us on YouTube now. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for joining us again on the Oasis podcast. And guess who we got today? Hey, Keesh.
Hey.
Hey. I haven't seen Miss Keesh in a minute, girl.
Right. You treat me like a stepchild.
You know that's not true. You've been glowing up and doing some things. So I mean, we're gonna get to all that, you know what I'm saying? But for those who don't know, this is Miss Keesh. Okay.
Everybody.
All right. So if you guys have not checked out my last episode 51, we are talking about waiting on your time and waiting on your season. And this episode is just aligned perfectly, because this episode we're talking about manifesting our reality, right? And I couldn't think of no one else better than Miss Keesh. Because when I tell you Miss Keesh been doing her thing out here in these streets, okay?
Yeah.
Been doing her thing. And so I was like, nah, we got to definitely do a sister to sister talking about manifesting your reality, because, you know, I did my little things I learned to be true, and talking about praying and being intentful. And I feel like, girl, you are the epitome of that. We're going to go ahead and jump right in and talk about, one, just give us an update, because you haven't been on the podcast in a minute. So tell us what's been going on with you, and then we can kind of dive in a little bit deeper.
Right. So thank you for having me on the podcast. It's been a long time. I don't know when was the last time I was on here, but
it was early last
year. Yeah, right. So during the pandemic, the panorama, the Panera Bread, I graduated. I graduated with my license in social work. This is my second degree, second master's, second and last. So a lot of people actually do a doctorate.
You finally done?
And I'm like,
okay.
I'm sure about that, because I don't got doctorate money. Okay. I don't. So I did graduate. Unfortunately, I didn't celebrate the way I wanted to celebrate because of the panoramic, the Panasonic, and I was just very low key. I was very solemn that day because it was like something that I wanted to express joyously, and I couldn't really do that. But I was unemployed during the Panasonic.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wrestling with that because I was collecting the unemployment. So, you know, the extra $600 was hitting right.
We talked about that last time. You was feeling like, oh, I shouldn't be taking this money.
Right.
I was like, you better collect them points. Them your taxes.
Exactly. And I think after that conversation, I was just like, you better shut up and collect the points. And that's what I did. And then I picked up like a little part-time job working with a preschooler for her education, helping her mother out. So I was just doing that. And I was applying like crazy. And this job came as a youth social worker for a criminal justice agency. And I said, I never been in the justice field, but let me get a go around.
Hold on. I just want to pause, because I know the in-betweens. I feel like you skipping important shit. During this time, remember, while you were unemployed, you were also focusing on the things that you actually wanted to happen in your life. Remember? So talk about that part, because I remember we had a few conversations about those things.
Yes, exactly. Thank you for reminding me. So yes, I was very intentional with my prayers. I wanted to move out of my mother's house. That was the main thing. I told myself, year 36 cannot meet me at this same place. And it was not that my mother had problems. I mean, every mother and daughter dynamic is very strenuous, loving and difficult at the same time. But I felt unaccomplished. I felt like I couldn't achieve what I wanted for myself if I had stayed in that particular environment. And I was very intentional. I didn't have an altar yet, but I remember like going for walks and going walks with nature and just telling myself like, this is what I want to move out. I want to be in a place that is accessible to all types of transportation, accessible to all types of supermarkets. So I don't feel like I have to catch a bus and a train and an airplane all the way to the supermarket to get my groceries. I was very intentional on the job that I wanted, the salary that I wanted. And for context, like, yes, I do have 2 masters, but I'm very cheap with my money. So I live in a lifestyle that I could afford. And I wanted to live in a lifestyle that I could afford plus more, so I could take care of the responsibilities that I was paying for, which was the apartment or the car or whatever. And I was very intentional with everything. So I started applying, and then I was able to get a job at the criminal justice agency as a youth social worker, but it didn't align with what I actually wanted, only because the salary was under $50,000. And for me, like for a person who has 2 masters, you cannot live with a salary under $50,000. It's like, damn it, should I be a sanitation man or what?
They make money, girl.
They make money overtime in the snow. They make money. That's why I'm looking for a husband in the sanitation realm. But like, I was very intentional, and I say, you know what, guys, if this was a starting point for me, I'm not going to deny it. And I think in that aspect, I got closer to God only because I thought of it as in like, sometimes we go to our prayers, and sometimes prayers sounds like begging. And if you switch that mindset to say, guide me in the direction that you want me to go, or teach me to be more loyal to you rather than loyal to my own plans, then I will follow, or reduce my ego. So that's why I was doing in the prepping season. That's why I call it the preparation season.
Yeah.
Because I was prepping everything to go into what I actually wanted and make sure that it was manifesting in the time that it needed to manifest it.
So can we talk about, because we're going to talk about all how it actually created itself, manifested itself in your life, but can we talk about that period, right? That preparation period, because that shit ain't fun. You feel me? And talk about the ups and downs of that period, because I think a lot of times we talk about, the things we want, and then we maybe talk about at the end of it, like, oh, I got these things, but we don't talk about how turbulent that time in between is, right? Because I know me, you and I talk, so I was listening to you and hearing you talk about things, and we had our conversations. But for whoever might be listening and needing that, that talk to hear, oh wow, somebody else has experienced that. I know I talk about it. I've talked about that, like being in this weird space and feeling this and feeling that. Can you talk about that period, and then we can talk about the other side of it?
Right. So yes, the preparation season, the prepping season. So before you cook a good meal, you want to prep. You want to make sure that you have the right ingredients, the right seasoning, the right food to make the great meal. And in that transition, in the transition of cooking that meal, you have to prep. So in the preparation season, you had to be mindful of how you speak to yourself and how you speak to the world. And trust me, it's very difficult. It's up and down where you feel like, what's going on? Am I doing the right thing? Am I not doing the right thing? What can I do to do the right thing? Or where would I go from here? Is this the right move that I'm making? And I think in the preparation season, you have to remember to release the control and stop trying to control every aspect of your life. Because if you do that, you're going to lose out the blessings that's supposed to occur. So that was me. Like, I had to really remove myself. And it took a lot of friends to tell me, like, girl, you don't want to work through the pandemic. You want to sit down and rest. And I couldn't fathom that because I'm such a hard worker. I always work. I barely take days off. Now I'm learning to be like, oh, okay, So I'm taking this day off. I'm taking this day off. I'm
Okay.
taking this week off. So I'm
Okay.
being more intentional. So that was in my preparation season of like learning what really serves me, what are my boundaries, what are my triggers, and how can I overcome wanting to achieve so much more than understanding that I should give grace into what I already achieved.
And that's celebrating those small moments, those small little victories, but also learn how to sit your ass down. You know what I'm saying?
Sit my ass down, yeah. I've been working since I was 14 and I never sat down. Yes, I lost jobs here and there, but another thing is also asking for help, because that's something I never done. Like, even when I was unemployed, my mother used to give me money. I'm like, no, I don't have this money. Like, I want to sit in the struggle. And I think sitting in the struggle was so important for me because I had to learn to be graceful with myself and also navigate this space where if I want to see better and how does better look, I must be able to sit in the uncomfortable moments, the uncertain moments, the jaded moments, the angry moments, because not only you're angry with yourself, but you're also angry with God for putting you in this situation.
So I actually saw, I'm not gonna remember verbatim. I'm not sure if I screenshotted it, but I seen this meme the other day that said we are in a generation or something like that, but says something's mentioning like we hate to be bored, right? And that we need to learn that lack of stimulation doesn't mean that you're lacking something.
Right.
And I think that was so profound to me. And I'm like, it's true. Because even we see little kids and be like, oh, I'm bored. And we be like, yo, you got all this shit. Like, how you bored? Like, what? But then as adults, we may not necessarily sit down and process it the same way as little kids do. But we do kind of have the same mindset in the sense of like, when we have to sit and we don't have 1,000 things to do, we're thinking that, oh man, my life don't mean nothing. Like, I'm not living. And it's like, no, this is a part of living. Sitting your ass down and actually having the ability to think, to plan, to process, to unpack, that is still a part of life. It's not always go, 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 go. Complete, next, complete, next. Like, it's not always that. And I think that, like, the stage you were in, I think the stage I've experienced, everybody needs that damn stage. Like, sit down.
Right. And even if you're not a religious person, whatever you pray to or what you do not pray to, you have to understand that you have to sit in that season of preparation, because you want greatness. How can greatness occur when you cannot even prep for it?
Right.
And I always tell my clients, and I also tell other people, I'm like, let's say God give you, or whoever you believe in, gives you what you need and what you want. You want that relationship. You want that job. You want that income. How soon are you going to fuck it up because you wasn't in that preparation?
You didn't ready yourself. Yep.
Exactly. And you have to learn that just because it's not happening in the time frame that you want it to happen, it's not going to happen. It's just maybe you need a little extra preference.
Yeah.
So if you want that relationship, how are you going to communicate better? How are you going to be present in the relationship?
Exactly.
If you want that
how
income,
are you going to be able to identify the person that's for you? How are you be able to identify the job, the apartment? You know what I mean? Like, and it's true. If you don't know, if you haven't sat down and really think about it and prep yourself, how are you going to be able to identify it? It's not just going to be dropped in your lap. Like, that rarely happens.
Right. And if it does happen, how are you going to navigate that transitional space of newness? It's a lot of newness going around at you, and it's like it becomes overwhelming at some point, because it's like, okay, I did ask for this, but like, oh my God, this is too much. Like, how can I handle all this newness and not allowing myself to just be like, okay, you know what, I prepped for this newness, and now I'm going to navigate it in a way that is suitable for me. And I'm not saying like you could be okie dokie. Like, yeah, of course it's going to be overwhelming, you know, having an apartment and a job and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But like, how you able to say, okay, let me sit back, see how it makes me feel, navigating in a space where I could say, you know what, let me ask my friend for help because this is a little too overwhelming for me. Help that friend to allow that friend to navigate that for you so that way you can step in the season and be like, okay, now I know I'm ready.
That's a fact. Those are all facts, man.
Yeah.
Every stage, every space we move into has a purpose. Like,
right.
It all does. So okay. Last year this time you were working 3 jobs and you were making X, Y, and Z every 2 weeks. You was traveling. This year you ain't doing none of that shit. You got 1 job. You went to one place all year. It don't mean you're failing at life. It means that's just what you needed in this time because you need to focus your energies in different places and different areas so that you can prep yourself for what's coming next. And a lot of times we're not thinking that. We're comparing to what was that we used to be or have or whatever, or we're comparing to other people. And you can't do that. Like, everyone is on their own path. It doesn't mean you can't have people around you to encourage you or to make you look forward to and make yourself work harder. But or even using whatever experience you've had to make yourself work harder. But at the same time, like, you also need to be like, chill, fam, like, chill out, you know. And I've had to tell myself that so many fucking times, like, so many times. Like, through the pandemic, when I'm like, oh, people is traveling, doing all kinds of crazy shit, and you know, people are like, their businesses is like shooting up because, you know, I'm surrounded by dope ass fucking people, and then I'm sitting there like, here I am on the couch just crying about shit.
And wondering what
I need to do. I need to sit my ass down and cry.
Exactly. And that's the thing. A lot of people try to avoid those emotions. And plus me. Like, sometimes I do not like to be in my feelings because there's no reason for me to be in my feelings. But then I also have to recognize that if I cannot feel the feels, then how can I feel the blessings that will come?
If I cannot feel the feels, how can I feel the I like that. Ooh.
You know?
I might use that for the connection corner, girl.
No, it's the absolute truth. Like, everybody, like, it's so easy for us to compare ourselves to people because they show that narrative on social media. But then I also have to tell people, like, okay, what you see on social media, do you want the story behind it?
Correct. It's just
and if you don't want, exactly, they just show you a little bit of the happiness, but do you want the not communication, the uncertainty of when you're going to pay the next bill? All these things, do you want that aspect of that? And if no, then you should be able to say, okay, let me sit in what I'm sitting in, enjoy what I'm sitting in, even when it's so uncomfortable and so fucking annoying, but then also be able to say, okay, you know what, let me work on myself and work on these trauma and triggers that is happening within this season. So I can address it in a healthier manner and then allow myself to have better coping habits instead of those damaging coping habits like comparison, drinking wine, getting drunk, all these unhealthy things.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you already mentioned, so last year you went ahead and became a social worker. Okay, you got your degree, but then I'll let you add the rest. So you accomplished something else too.
Right. Not only I got the degree and then I got the job and I was able to work from home, thank God. I got my license. I became a licensed master social worker in February. And the funny thing about it was like taking the test is so daunting that I keep changing the answers. And I'm like, Keisha, stop changing the answers.
You did it on the first try?
On the first try, exactly.
She was so stressed. Oh my God, I don't think I'm ready. And she first tried.
On the first try, and I was just like, woo, let me burn everything to the ground. But yeah, I was able to pass my licensing, and then I told them, like, I passed it. They bumped my salary up to, it was originally under 50, then they bumped it up to 50, and then they bumped it up to like 52. And I like still felt uncomfortable, but I said, you know what, I'm going to make this work. And that was part of the prepper season. It was just like, yes, you see mad people leaving the job and you just like, oh, okay, what's going on? Mm-hmm. And then when your supervisor started leaving, it's like, okay, so I need to start putting in my papers. But
you needed that in that moment because you needed to start making money and, you know, to kind of get yourself in order. Right.
Exactly. But I thought it was more important to keep that experience. Only because I didn't know where I was going to head to next. Mm-hmm. So I was just like, you know what? Instead of just jumping ship like everybody was, it was just more of like, let me just sit in this, just enjoy what it is because I was working from home. I didn't have to go downtown Brooklyn. I ain't had to spend no money. What I had to spend money on was my mother's bills, my bills, and then the loan. So it was just like I was stretching this $52,000 income to its max, but it still worked for me because I was able to say, okay, let me minimize certain things and do things that I know.
COVID was good for that, boy.
Yeah,
COVID. That. I was saving them coins, baby.
I'm still saving the coins because I learned to do my own nails. Mm-hmm. I learned to prep. Well, I always prep my food, but I was very extra in prepping my food and my snacks. And I was able to say, okay, you know what? Let me buy certain things so that way I can make it last longer than what it was. And then just stop spending on clothes, which is my weakness. But like stop spending on things.
Because where we going? Nowhere.
Exactly. We wasn't going nowhere. So I was just like, why do I need this dress? And I was just like, well, I want it. And I'm like, no, sis, read it.
So I want you to talk through the process of you manifesting and your process of planning into execution into receiving what you was planning for. Because girl, Keisha was not playing. When she said, I'm getting my place, Keisha was not playing. Okay? Like, she was like, look, before I turn XYZ, here's how it's going down. Then she was like, yeah, I've been doing this. Okay, I saved up this amount. And then she was on it, like on it. Though it wasn't completely a smooth ride, she still got what she wanted. And I want you to talk about that because that shit was wild. I was sitting back like, girl.
Mm-hmm. And that's so funny. I thought about it the other day too, and I was just like, yo, like, girl, you really did that shit.
Okay.
Right. So, of course, during the pandemic, I was not working. And I think I started working when they start cutting off the $600.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So when everybody was spending money on crab legs and everything, I was just like, okay, so let me give my mother this money for her bills and let me pocket my money. And I'm going to save. And at that time, I was thinking of either buying a home, buying a condo, or going in a co-op, or going renting. And the only reason why I was thinking and leaning towards buying a home is because I was just like, you know what? I see the perils of renting, and the same amount of money that you're giving to rent is the down payment for a home. Mm-hmm. And I had to really like think for myself and said, can you afford that? Can you afford the added responsibilities of a home? And if you can, or if you think you can, where are you going to live? Because I was really adamant of saying, I'm getting out of New York. It's not, I don't have no hatred for New York. It was just, my season was up. Like at some point of time, you know, New York is it's too much for a person who's been born and raised here. So I was thinking of moving to New Jersey, Pennsylvania, but then I had to like really look at the cost. Like if I'm making this $52,000 income and I want to move to New Jersey, not only am I paying New Jersey tax and New York tax, I'm also paying for transportation. How can I afford these things?
Yeah.
And I had to be realistic. And I said, okay, you know what? I can't really get a house at this moment of time because the income is not feasible for the house. But I could get an apartment at a decent rate. So I started looking. And I remember having a conversation with my mother and told her, I said, well, I'm going to start looking for a place because I saved this amount of money. So I not only I'm covered for the whole year rent, I'm also covering for the added expenses of the moving expenses, the furnishings, and everything. And she was just like, well, I'm not kicking you out. And I said, it's not the fact that you're kicking me out. Is more, let me put this in context for you. If you want grandchildren, then I need to be able to have a space to have grandchildren.
Right.
And having sex under the bunk bed is not a good thing for me to have children. And I know I know it was more than that. I think because I was the higher income that made her be like, okay, if I could retire, I know people to take care of the place.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But then it was also like, I'm 35. I had turned 35 during the pandemic, and my mind was like, you better move out. You better have a better job. You better be in a better space, because I couldn't see myself growing in the space that I was. Mm-hmm. And I think what was the breaking point for me was me and my mother was not in a good space, and we had bad communication. And
I don't think it was bad communication. Outside of looking in, I think you were putting up your boundaries. And she ain't like,
well, yeah, exactly. So in context, when you are raised in a West Indian household and you're telling them boundaries, they're gonna look at you and say, "Oh, what that means?" You know, I used to do this, and then it'd be like, "No, like sometimes you need to chill and step back, and you need to watch what you say to me." And
because I'm grown, I'm grown.
Because I'm grown, but I'm gonna also push back with the communication, because it was. Like sometimes when my mother go away, like sometimes when she go back home, she'd be like, "Oh, well, you're not gonna go out when I'm not around." And it's like, wait, hold on, I'm paying your bills, my bills, and the loan, and you're telling me I'm not going out?
Huh.
Have a nice flight. You'll be lucky if I don't bring no one over. So it was those things.
It was time. It was time.
It was time, and it was just building up, and I was just like, you know what, it's time. So I would say I started looking around April, and I was applying for affordable housing, but I was also looking individually, because affordable housing is not that affordable. Not that affordable.
It take a while too. Yeah.
And it also take a while, which is funny, because now that I moved in, all these applications is coming in. And it's just like, where were you? Mm. But I'm happy that I had my place. But yeah, it was just so crazy. And I applied to this housing, and they accepted me, and it was up the block from my mother's house. And it was a 2-bedroom, and it was $1,775. This is affordable housing. And I said, okay, it was a 2-bedroom.
That's the one you sent me the video of?
Yes. 2-bedroom, Newkirk Avenue. It was Newkirk Avenue. I was just like, okay, bet. Like, it's in the vicinity. Is that what I'm exactly looking for? So I guess I have to be more specific. And I remember saying that to myself. But I was just like, you know what? We getting there. I went to the place, and I was like, this ain't it.
It was a freaking matchbox.
A matchbox. The only good thing about it was the balcony. Other than that, everything was horrible.
Yeah.
There was no closet. And yes, they talked about having a gym and a laundry. The gym was like this. And then the laundry was even tighter, because let's say I'm coming all the way down from the 3rd floor to do my laundry. They only had 2 washers and 2 dryers. Mm-hmm. If everything is full, what am I gonna do?
And all that.
Exactly. And this was $1,775, which is affordable housing. So I remember showing people the video, but also showing my mother, and she was just like, look, I know we're not in a good place, but that ain't it.
That ain't it.
That ain't. She was like, this is not it. I just stay in, and one will find you. So I said, okay, cool. So I became more intentional. Like, you know, God, if you hear me, I want a place that is accessible in all modes of transportation. It has all type of shopping centers, supermarkets, whatever, and not too far from my mother's house. because I knew how my mother, because I'm the only child, so I knew that her living alone and me living alone was a newness that we can't adjust correctly. And I want her to feel comfortable enough to say, okay, you know what? I can go to my daughter's house because she's not that far from me. So in the meantime, I'm still working. I'm doing all the working. And I said, Lord, you know what? I'm looking for a job that will allow me to pay for the rent. And even if I know the rent is going to be high, I'll be able to say I still have cushion. That was the main thing. I didn't want to say, oh yeah, let me just work to pay these bills. No, let me work to have cushion. And sometimes we as people, we live in a scarcity mindset where we think that we do not have enough. And then I had to really sit down and say, no, shorty, you had not only you have enough, but you
got a little extra.
You got a little extra.
Yeah.
And you got extra on top of the extra. So whatever relationship I enter in, I know that I'm putting my part on the table and letting you know what I can contribute to myself. And if I have to contribute to you if you're down. So I was very intentional with this. And I stopped for a while. And then people started leaving the job. And then I said, okay, you know what? Let me see how I'm going to navigate this. But I was still doing the job. And the funny thing about it, someone was talking about the job that I currently have now and having a $15,000 increase in salary. So I said, oh, let me try to apply. I said, I need to remove that fear. And that was part of the preparation season because I constantly was not doing things because I was fearful of them. And then I had to say, no, let me do things because I know I'm fearful of them, but I can achieve them. So when I applied for this job, I didn't think nothing of it, but I kept doing what I had to do to look for a place. And I found a place. It was not too far from the junction. And I liked it. It was really nice. It was accessible. It was in a nice area. But I didn't want to pay the $3. So the $3 was the broker's fee, the first and the last, the security deposit, excuse me. And I was just like, I can't pay this broker's fee. Like, I do not want to pay this broker's fee. But this apartment is so perfect. It's perfect. Meanwhile, I applied for the job, but then I also stopped applying because I felt like there was no reason for me. Let me just focus on this apartment. And the broker was like, him and her, and he was just like, oh, you know, you have to meet the landlords and blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay, like, no problem. During that time, I got the first interview for the job that I have now. And I thought, okay, cool. Did the interview, didn't think nothing of it. And I did the interview with my so-and-so landlord. And they said, in short, yeah, you got the place. I said, cool. No problem. I'm happy. I can't do certain things at this moment because I'm heading to Texas for, you know, I told them for a work.
Houston was lit.
I was lit. Houston was lit. Like, I would go back again. So I did the, like, it's for work, whatever. But I was doing the second interview too. And that's when I knew everything was like jumping the ship that I wanted to jump. And I said, oh, okay, let me do the second interview. Boom, bam, boom. Cool. Then I was in Houston. I get a call from the brokers and say that, you know, they gave my apartment to somebody else.
Just get to Houston. What a buzzkill. She was ready to fight somebody. She was ready to
fight. I was so upset. I was just like, I did everything on my end. It was just like I couldn't do it in the time that I was supposed to do it. And in hindsight, thank God. And the guy was just like, you know, you were saying that you wanted the place, you didn't want the place. And I said, sir, like, you sent me to the landlords. And the landlords never gave me the lease to sign. And he was just like, I never knew that. And I said, yeah. Of course, they're not going to tell you that. Because I was adamant that I wanted the stove to be removed because the stove was horrendous. Like, you would not even want to cook for your children on that stove. And I said, you know what, deal with my mother because I don't want to go through anymore. And I remember he talked to my mother, and my mother called me, and he was just like, yeah, he said every misdirection is a redirection to your purpose. And I said, a Jewish man said that? I was just like, what? And the vocalist was really nice. I can't lie, he was very nice. But he said that to my mother, and she was just like, you know what? I think it's true. Like, yeah, we wanted this, but this is not it. So cool. In the time of that, I got the third interview for the job, and I was just like, oh, this is really happening. And I said, okay, let me do the third interview for this job. Cool. Still looking for a job. And I already had told people that I was moving into the place, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And I had to recant that statement. So I did like an iOS police press release to everybody saying, hey, this is not happening, whatever. So when I did it to one of my friends, she was just like, oh, there's 3 apartments available in my building. And I said, okay, where do you live? She said, I live in Avenue I, which is Avenue J was the original apartment. Avenue I is here. And I said, oh, okay. All right, cool, no problem. And like I said, I was still working. I didn't think much of the job. And I didn't think much of the interview. And I went to see the apartment. The apartment that I went to see was a different apartment than the one I have now. I don't know what happened. There was just a miscommunication. And I ended up going to the apartment that I have now to see and thinking that this was a part of the rent that I was going to pay. And I fell in love with this one aspect of the apartment, which was unique. So in the living room, there's a little nook.
In the living room you're sitting in right now.
The living room I'm sitting in right now, there's a little nook. And at first I was like, oh, I'm going to make this as a bar. But then my friend was just like, nah, make it as your office. Because you are working from home. At least you can have the space to say, okay, this is where I work and I'm done. And I said, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And then I said, okay, cool, whatever. But I'm still like navigating this preparation stage. Because I kept telling people, like, I don't know if something's happening, but it's going to happen. I don't know. I could feel it. And I submitted my application for this apartment. I didn't really think nothing of it. And also, the job that I have now was asking for references. So I was just like, oh, okay. Gave them my references, gave this apartment information, and then literally back to back was when I found out that I got the apartment.
Yeah.
And then the next day I was at dinner, and then something told me to look at my phone because I never look at my phone during dinner time when I went out with friends. I looked at my phone and there was, congratulations, you got this job.
Yep. But here's the part, because we got to talk about just blessings, prayer, and all that, right? Because you got this apartment, you fell in love with this apartment thinking it's going to cost less than it actually did. You got the apartment and then found out it was a lot more, right?
Right.
So you was just like, damn, yo, I'm going to have to, pull a little strings here, do a little this, little that. And then, bam, you find out you get the job that's paying you more money. I was like, girl.
Exactly. Look at God. But the funny thing is, I did miss this part. I was working a part-time job as a therapist. I was training to be a therapist. And it was something that I was very uncomfortable in doing because I didn't want to be in that clinical aspect. But a person just like, no, I think you're good, thrust me into it. And I said, okay, let me see how it works for me. And I was working the part-time job with my full-time job. So when I got the new job, it was just like, okay, do I really need the part-time job? And I said, no, you know what? This will be my little second stream of income because, we need multiple streams of income. So cool. And I was intentional with these prayers. I was just like, you know what? Guide me in the experience or the field that I need to be in. And it seems like as a person who worked with youth, I didn't really work with adults. So when I was doing therapy, I was working with adults.
Mm-hmm.
And when I mean adults, it ranged from young adults from 25 to all the way to my oldest client, which is 52. And I was just like, well, how can I assist these people? But it was that preference season of me assisting these people that led me to the job that I have now, which I am supporting adults.
Mm-hmm. Won't he do it? Won't
he do it? So I started, and I was just like, what is going on? So I had to put my 2 week notice in the other job. And, you know, sometimes when you think you're not doing a good job, or sometimes you feel like, you know, you feel like an imposter doing the job, you get humbled by a moment in time. So, like I said, everybody was leaving my last job, including the supervisor that I was really chill with. And I remember telling her, like, you know, I'm rapping with guilt. I don't feel like I should leave. And she said, why would you want to stay? We're not going to pay you that money. And I said, boom.
That part says,
that's all I needed to know.
That's what I need to hear.
That's all I needed to know. And that's all I needed to hear. Thank you very much. But also, like, as I said, my supervisor was leaving too. So I went to a party in her honor at the bar. And everybody kept coming up to me. They were just like, yeah, we heard nothing but great things about you. You're a great clinician. You know, we see your notes and stuff like that. And I was just like, okay, like, you know, it's good to have your name being mentioned, but then it's also like, yes, it's great, but what are you talking about in that moment when you know who I am? And I wrestle with that, and I'm still, you know, trying to overcome. Like, yeah, it's a good thing that people know you, because it's nothing but good things. And that's what I'm dealing with at my job right now, with people coming up like, oh, yeah, Keisha. And I'm like, who sent you? Who sent you? And return to send them, you know? And it was just so much things. And like the first, I already started thinking like, it's going to fall through. But luckily, it didn't fall through. I went and I signed a lease. It was a little bit more than what I had, but I was like, oh, I have this job and I got this part-time job, so I'll be good. Mm-hmm. And in starting this job, they rearranged the salary. So it's higher now than when I started. So it was just like, well, thank you, Lord. Like, and I always tell people this, I could live comfortably at 70K, only because I have low needs and I know how to finagle the system. Mm-hmm. So for me to have this job not only pushed me closer to the 70K, but also with the part-time job, it put me over the 70K. Mm-hmm. So now that I ask for God for all these things, how am I able to return the praises back to Him for these things? And I always have to be
gratitude, baby.
Gratitude. Yes, gratitude meditation goes far. So I had to start sitting down and saying, you know what? I thank you, Lord, for doing this for me, because you, first of all, you didn't have to do it, but you chose to do it in my behalf. And I know you're aligning me to a path that I'm supposed to go. And for that, I humbly thank you. And I'm allowing you to take that control, because now there's no wants and needs on my end. Of course, there's other areas in my life that I want fixing, but let me praise you for the areas that you was able to fix. Mm-hmm. So that was me and my spiritual journey in that sense, because, and I tell people that I'm not above, I know specific verses of the Bible. I do listen and read the Bible every day, but I am not like a religious zealot. I respect everybody who has different opinions about the Bible or different opinions about spirituality and religion. However, I know God chose me. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to praise God. And it took me this long to recognize God had a hand on my life.
Amen.
So, you know, I preface by telling that, because I don't want people to feel like, oh, you know, you're using God no, I'm not using God as a token. I had to use the God that is in me to serve the God that is almighty.
I'm going to be dropping another episode talking about spirituality versus religion, but girl, okay. And I just want to,
I feel like I've told you this before, but I've told you how I'm like, how much you've grown, how much you've done. Like, I'm just like, oh, Keisha, girl. Like, cause it's beautiful, cause I've known you for a very long time, and we see each other kind of go up and down and grow and glow. And I love what you just said about like, yeah, I have to sit back. I got to give my gratitude. God ain't have to do it. And this is why now I'm going to sit here and thank him. But at the same time, you were also very humble in your journey. You've also stayed intentful. You stayed devout. You feel me? Like you ain't give up on everything. You wanted to. You have moments where you're like, man, why the fuck me? Like, what the fuck is going on? Because I've been like, I've seen you go through these things with jobs and this and that and like the whole shit. But you were still like, yo, I'm gonna stay focused. I'm gonna keep praying.
Right.
You don't have to work out. And even when you had your moment, you still knew. You know what I mean? Like back then, I'm still gonna go back to, you know, to I know God ain't gonna let me down. I'm gonna focus. And so this is why I'm like, yo, it's beautiful. And this is why you had to share this story. Because it's like, yes, sometimes that hard shit lasts a very long fucking time.
It's a long time. It does last a long time, but then you have to be humble. And I think that's, and I took an Enneagram test to see what type of personality I have. And they said I'm a category 7, which is like enthusiast. Because I'm very optimistic. Like, yes, I see the shit happening and I see it in real time for me to say, okay, let me get this wine and let me lay down horizontally on this couch and drink my life away. But then I also say, I see the good in the bad. And I think so many people is so wrapped up in the bad that they don't see the good in the situation. For me, in the pandemic, I saw the bad. I wasn't working. I was
joking about this shit.
I was joking.
It's the end of times, but you know, I was like, what you mean, you know? She's talking about, but you know,
I was like, it's the end of times, but I was just like, you know what? But there's a positive in the end of times. And everyone was just like, what do you mean it's a positive? Like, people are dying. I said, yes. I said, you know what? Rest in peace and rest in power to those who died. But I want you to look at the aspect of you. If you didn't have this time of stillness, were you able to accomplish all that you wanted to do? Were you able to save that money instead of going to work every single day? Were you able to say, okay, you know what, now, yes, I'm in my stillness. Yes, I'm alone and I have to navigate this aloneness. What can I do to support myself in a healthier manner? And if that means now is the time to go to therapy, I need to go to therapy.
Okay. And what I think is an important piece too, is that a lot of times when we sink down low, we hit that, what we consider our bottom, we want to blame God. You feel me? We want to be on some angry shit. We want to be like, oh, why me? Why not you? What makes you special? And I feel like we all have those moments, right? But I feel like, at least again, I'm the outsider looking in, because I was going through my own shit. We were going through different shit, but we still going through shit. I don't know who didn't go through shit with COVID, but like when you would have those moments though, you would still be able to be like, you know what? Nah, I'm picking myself up. You know what I mean? And it's okay. But you gave yourself, because I remember telling you, girl, it's okay. You down, feel down, but also give yourself grace, because you were accomplishing stuff. You just had to accept your small wins. But that's the thing. You didn't let yourself stay, you know, in that space. Like you have you're human, you had your little moments, but then you're like, all right, let me redirect, right? Let me refocus. And I think that's also an important piece about it. Like, sit and feel your feelings. Like, don't get that twisted. We ain't super women, right? We ain't super women.
Exactly.
Feel your shit. But at the same time, don't feel like you're being punished. Don't feel like God has a vendetta against you, because why? You know what I'm saying? It's like, no, what are you being taught right now? You know what I'm saying? And I feel like you did that just beautifully. Again, there were hard times, but you climbed back out. You was just like, look, this is what I'm gonna do. And when I'm telling Keisha playing this, because I literally said that. I was like, girl, got this job. Cool, girl, you did that. Girl, I got an apartment. Oh, I got another job. I was just like,
yeah, man. I wasn't joking, because I was really like, okay, let me be intentional with everything. But then in the pandemic, a lot of things happened where I gained friendships, I lost friendships, I lost a sense of myself. I gain a sense of myself. And it was just like so much. So I had to shift the narrative of woe is me to like, oh, it's just me. And I started exercising a little bit more. So the exercise was not like, oh, these strenuous, let me lift up weights and type of exercise. It was just literally, let me walk. And I used to like text people, oh, where you walking at? And I'm like, yeah, I'm downtown Brooklyn. You walk downtown Brooklyn? Yeah, I walk all the way downtown Brooklyn and I'm walking back from downtown
Being
Brooklyn.
in nature, it helps, especially during COVID. Being outside was necessary.
Oh, it was so necessary for me. And I think me walking, like I remember walking all the way to Costco from where I lived. And my mother was just like, oh, well, since you're there, get these things. And I was just like, well, I don't got no bag. And she was like, well, next time, bring a bag and you're going to walk to Costco. And it was just like me walking in nature, just seeing everything and just enjoying the space. And mind you, it was dead of fucking winter. And me walking with two tights on, walking to Costco, because I just needed the sense of nature. I needed to clear my mind. I needed to just be humble in the fact, because I was leaning towards depression and I saw it and I said, no, let me start going back into therapy. So I started looking for a therapist. I got my therapist. And then like I was just like, a therapist needing a therapist. And I remember talking to my therapist about that. And she was just like, yeah, you need to vet. It's not like you could talk about clients, you could talk about yourself too. And I thought, okay, cool. And it's funny too, because she was just like, oh, well, everything is good, because after I got my apartment and after I got everything, she was just like, well, you know, you're good. You don't need to. And I had to say, nah, there's certain things I wanted to dig in a little deeper. And yes, this aspect of me moving out is great, but I want to share myself with somebody. How am I able to share myself with somebody when I'm holding onto the past of the past trauma and the hurt of wanting to share myself with somebody, or unable to share myself with? And that don't even necessarily mean men. It just means
all relationships.
It could be all relationships.
Yeah.
So I had to do that, but it was just like the unfortunateness of, that is not even a word, but we're gonna make it a word, unfortunateness of the pandemic. It brought the beauty in what's happening in specific people's lives.
It's a fact.
And if we didn't have that stillness, we wouldn't be able to say, okay, well, let me navigate through all this shit. Because we were so used to the distractions that the shit that we had was not coming in. See, this is the therapist is coming out right now. Is we are so distracted and we love our distractions that when it's time to come into the feelings, we want to be like, nah. But the pandemic opened those feelings and made you be like, so what's going on? How are we gonna do this? So, and like, trust me, I am no perfect person. I still struggle now and then with certain things. Like, yeah, I'm living by myself. I'm close to my mother. I'm able to achieve everything, but I'm still missing that aspect of sharing myself with somebody. And that's hard for me, because it's like, I never been alone in a place. And now I need to know how to navigate and be on my own in my own apartment. And here I am trying to rush to say, okay, well, come over and spend some time with me, better than that. Instead of me saying, okay, well, let me just sit on this couch and watch Family Guy.
That shit hit different. It hits different. And definitely been in that space, the exact current space that you're in, right? You've been feeling to get out your parents' home, fine. You finally get out. And I remember when I moved out, girls, it's going to be 10 years this year. When I moved out, I did the same. Yeah.
It's a long time.
But when I moved out, it was the same thing. I went from wanting to be in my own space and not be surrounded by people. And then what did I keep doing? When I got my own space, I used to have parties and game nights all the time. I was constantly, oh, you want to come through? Come through. Everybody come through. And it took me a few years, honestly, to be like, yo, like, nah, like, sit down and just enjoy being by yourself. Enjoy your space. But I had to realize that I was just distracting myself, right? I had to realize that I was afraid of being alone, right? I was scared, physically scared, because you're like, it's just little old me. Like, God forbid, for a long time, just being scared about that. But also then, like, shit, like, I think we're gonna have to do an episode about a scarcity mindset and how that affects just everything.
Yeah.
But like also have that mindset, like, shit, it's only on me. Like I gotta pay rent. I gotta pay all these bills. If I don't budget my money right, I ain't eating. Like, it was just like so much stuff because girl, I was young and dumb and I was going out making it rain, and then I'm like, fuck, I gotta wait to pay. I had no food. I can't.
Exactly.
So much navigating. It was just so muchness.
It was, yeah.
I think the craziest part is just like, it's just me.
Exactly. And I thank God because my mother was able to like help me in the navigation. Like, even though she didn't want me to move out, she was just like, no, it's kind of time you move out. And it's funny, like, I was over there yesterday. I was like, did you miss me? She was just like, no, not really. Not really, but like, when I got the apartment, she was just like, okay, bet. So we're going to go to Bobby's, at the West Indian Macy's. We have to go to Bobby's.
Yeah, if y'all don't know Bobby's, y'all look it up.
Yeah. And Amazing Savings, that's the Centuries, the West Indian Centuries. So she was just like, we're going to go to Bobby's, we're going to go to Centuries. And she was taking control of everything. She was just like, you're working. You're not going to have time to do this. So allow me to do it. And that's the part of struggling to ask for help, is because you want to show that you could do it on your own. But here's this person that's saying, I know you could do it on your own, but I just want to help you because I don't want you to be overwhelmed with everything.
That's a blessing, because I ain't had
that was a blessing. Exactly. So she was able to help me and navigate and help me like set up the place. We use the money that I saved to spruce up the whole apartment. It still needs to be done, but like, as you said before, like, now you're in a space by yourself. And I told her the joke yesterday. I was just like, yeah, I live in darkness. I'm not turning on no light.
Born in darkness. Darkness don't bother me at all.
Darkness doesn't bother me.
Electricity bill. Okay.
Exactly. Like, I have my friend that live across the hall from me, so she is good. I'm good. I don't need this light. The only thing I need is the fan because it's hot. Everything else is dark in this apartment. And I am okay with that because you have to be mindful, like, okay, if you're going to have these blessings, are you going to be disciplined in those blessings? That was the thing for me. And I think that was a challenge that I was facing when I started moving in, because it was just like, you're going to be on your own. How are you going to navigate buying groceries? How are you going to go to the laundromat? You hate going to the laundromat. So now you got to go to the laundromat. Do you want to have people wash your clothes? And it's just like, this is COVID. Like, you're very mindful, but you're also mindful of the money that you're spending. And if you're using the money, and make sure that you're making use for the whole thing, not just because it's like I had this headphones that it works still, but the ear comes off if I do it in a different angle. And I had to be like, is this important for me to buy a new headphones? And I'm like,
right now? Sounds like a luxury to me.
Exactly. So I was just like, you know what? Let me just keep this headphones unless it shows that it's dead and I need these headphones. Yeah. So it was just mad things I had to learn to navigate and learn to be like, okay. And I feel like this may be a word for somebody, but like, when you get the blessings, you have to be able to account for it and be disciplined
and maintain that joint.
And you have to maintain it, because now everything, you said you wanted this. And that's how I feel. I wanted this apartment. I wanted this freedom. How are you going to manage this freedom? Are you just going to say, oh, yes, I have a place to stay, but I'm going out every weekend? No. Sometimes you could say, don't be me.
When I was younger, I was in my 20s and I was just dumb. So, but I needed to learn that. You know what I'm saying? I needed to learn that lesson,
Right. I agree, because the same thing, but now we're in our 30s. I'm still doing the same thing, but I do it in a smart way where it's like, oh, you want to buy a bottle? You can buy a bottle. I'm a pregame. And I'm going to bring my pregame to this place. And I dare someone stop me with my liquor going into the party. But like certain things like that, you had to be able to be mindful and maintain. And I think, not everything is perfect. Like, I do struggle sometimes where it's like, okay, I'm by myself. Like, I don't really have no one to really piggyback on. Yes, I can go to my friend's house, but like, she has her son and she has her home life, so I can't really rely on that. Yeah. So how does that look like being on your own?
That part, girl.
Exactly. So I've been learning to do that for the past couple of weeks, where it's just like I'm sitting here by myself and just enjoying TV and just enjoying me. And now that the world is opening up, I'm gonna continue doing that, but in an outside setting space of like, okay, if I want a relationship, am I comfortable with being by myself and being secure in my own identity? So whoever comes and adds that happiness with me, I could be able to say, okay, I can sustain my happiness, and I don't necessarily need to be up on you 24/7, 365. I want you to be able to be secure in your own identity.
I was just thinking that same thought. In my head, I was just saying to myself, I think this is the first time in my life that I'm actually in a relationship with somebody that I really for like. And I'm also 1000% okay when that person is not around. Do you feel me? Like, but not on some dismissive shit. Like, I don't care, whatever. I don't care about that nigga. He made me mad anyway. But on some like, I love when you here, and I love it when you're gone. Like, but it's like, but it's okay. You feel me? Like, I don't know how to explain what I'm trying to say, because I was okay before not having people around, but it was because they didn't add anything to me. If that makes sense, right? Then there was no value added. So when they were gone, I was like, good, like, stop eating my shit and like, stop using my shit. But this person adds something to me, right? And so like, but when they're not there, it's like, all right, cool, right? Because I got so comfortable with myself. I got so, my space is exactly how I want it to feel. And then there's another thing about energy too, which you're not talking about, of like, you can't let everybody in your face, and that's something I learned later on. I know. But I was like telling you from jump, girl, don't let these homosexuals in your space.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? My sister said the same thing. She's just like, don't let nobody or anybody.
That is so important. So that was like that aspect of like, a lot, and then those people, they would bring an energy into my space. Like at that time, I wasn't calling it energy. I didn't know what it was. It just like, when they were here, it felt ooh, but when they was gone, it's like, oh, it feels different. So it's like, first time that person doesn't change that energy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It feels great when he here, and then when he ain't here, it still feels great because the energy is the same. So that shit is like paramount.
Yeah, I absolutely. My sister said the same thing, and it was so funny because, like, as I said before, like, I'm trying to navigate the dating phase, and I was on, dating websites like Hinge and Tinder, whatever. And, I was meeting people left and right and center, and it was cool. But then it was just one particular person who was just like, after we go on a date, go back to your house. And I'm like, but why you want to come back to my, as a curious child, I am very curious. And a curious child would be always questioning why.
I'm always asking.
That was me, like, why would you want to come to my house? She said, well, to continue the date. And I'm like, continue the date, why? If we say goodbye at the bar, then that means you need to go your way and I go my way. Have a safe night, drive there safely, and be blessed. And he had this whole narrative of like, it's very discerning that you don't want to spend time. It's like, you don't want me over your house. And I say, well, sir, I don't know you and I don't feel safe with you.
At all.
That is it. We haven't been on one date for me to say, oh yeah, come over and just chill. No, you're not one of my oldie ones. I could be like, all right, come over. Let me get what I need and you can leave. So why do you want to come to my place? And he was just like, oh, I want to fuck you and romance you. And I was just like, wow. So let me make your mind blown. You can romance me without fucking me, right? Wow. And he was just like, well, it's very discerning for me that you don't think sex in that way. And I said, I don't know you enough to make you feel safe to say, here's my body. Plus, we're living in times of COVID. So, and you work at a facility that has rampant COVID cases. So do you want that type of energy to my house? And when I'm telling him this, I'm hearing my sister, don't let people coming in your house who bring that type of energy. And I say, you know what? I think us knowing each other has run its course. Be blessed and be safe. But I don't think we are in alignment of what I'm looking for and you looking for. Because you could say, yes, I'm looking for a friendship that could grow into something more. And I'm telling you that in the same way. But now all of a sudden, everything shifts to sex. And we've never had a first date. Yeah. So why everything is shifting to sex?
Girl, we could talk about this all day because you already know people don't know how to date. But what was I telling you? The minute you get a place, all people want to do is be in your house. Yeah. Sir, back up for me. And you know the thing, again, I was younger. I was in a different mindset too. I was also on my bullshit. But I really wished that I learned that lesson way, 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 way earlier on. Like, because your space is your sanctuary on some real shit. You feel me?
Yeah, like, it is.
Where you eat, is where you rest your head. It's where you cry. This is where you just deal. It's just your everything. Exactly. And you have to keep it that way. You know what I'm saying? But everyone doesn't respect space in that way. And so they think that it's a hangout. They think that, this is where I come and do. And it's like, nah, to be at this age though, people still are like that. Like that. Like, we're in our 30s. Like, why the fuck are we still so pressed about fucking?
Exactly.
We've been fucking for years now. Exactly. I don't understand.
And we cool with that. But I think for me, I think that was a test too, because it was just like, here I am trying to fill this space. And I'm not allowing myself to say, okay, let me just be in the newness of the space. And I learned that. I was just like, you know what, let me just take a step back and just appreciate the space. And that's what I have. I've been appreciating the space. I clean it. I make sure that everything is well. I make sure that I stock my house, even though my mother's like, you have so much stuff. And I'm like, no, because I don't like grocery shopping, and grocery shopping do not like me. So I'm going to make sure that I have things. So I'm prepared for 2 months ahead. But I'm also being mindful, like, okay, this is my space. How am I going to treat my space? And I'm still in decoration mode. I mean, I just moved in July, and the house is fully furnished. But still, like, I'm trying to put the personal touches here and there. And I'm learning to take my time. And that takes time. And, you know, I was wrestling with that because I was just like, I want my house to be done. I don't have to worry about it. But I was just like, you know what? Let me take my time, because maybe something that I thought was a good idea ended up not being a good idea. So let me just scale back. So it was just supporting myself in the newness, because I had not only the new job and then the new salary that I wanted, but then I had new experience and then a new place. Yeah. And I was just like, it's too overwhelming for me. But I had to be like, no, but you asked for this. And this is the reason why you was prepping, is because now that you asked for this, you'd be able to say, okay, let me navigate it in a way that is helpful for me, so I don't have to worry about always have to lean on the unhealthy habits of making sure that I'm so maintained. It's a word. I'm just very excited with everything that's been going on. I would implore people to just be very intentional with the time and space, and even if you have to be silent, it's okay to be silent. Because you just kind of you're working through the magic, and you're allowing the details to work out of itself. So when you're ready to announce it, you don't have to feel like, oh, okay, I'm announcing and then I have to recant. So
sometimes some things need to be handled undercover, right? In secrecy. Because you need to be able to work those kinks out on your own instead of announcing all your steps. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you got to work those steps alone, right? And then you can still celebrate with people when that time comes, but
right. Like, I mean, I was frank with people what was going on, but I kept a lot of things hush-hush until it was time to reveal. And to the point where people were just like, well, I didn't even know you was working on this. I was just like, I didn't feel like it was something that I had to have a press release about and say, hey, this is what I'm doing. And, you know, a lot of people attribute my mission from IG as, you know, oh, she must be going through it. And it's like, no, I wasn't going through it. Like, trust me, I was enjoying life, but it was just more of like, I don't need to rely on Instagram for happiness. I have to rely on me for my happiness.
Real life.
My happiness.
When you're having fun in real life, you don't
need to having fun and I don't need to. And if I document things, I'm documenting things because yeah, I look cute. So yeah, let me just document this thing or whatever. But if you don't see it, it's likely on my phone. Or
it's still happening. Just because you don't see it, don't mean it ain't happening. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it was a lot of things that I kept hitting. Graduating, the degree, the license, and the job. But I was able to just say, okay, cool. Like, I'm ready to share. This is what's happening. And, celebrate with me. Enjoy this space with me. And we're in for a long ride because it just keeps going up.
That's good. So, I mean, you dropped a whole bunch of gems. But if you had to leave a listener or someone who's viewing this podcast with something, if they didn't hear nothing at all, what is one thing that you want them to take away from just your experience and how you manifested your reality?
I would say to you, if you are religious, I would implore you to pray about it, write things down, pretend that it already happened. If you go in that mindset of saying it already happened, and when it happened, you could be able to say, I accept this with full grace. Instead of questioning why is it happening and what's the meaning behind it. And if you're not a religious person, or if you're not have no affiliation with religion or spirituality, I would just say when you release control, then blessings will occur. And don't think that you have to maximize or minimize certain things in your life for these blessings to occur. I think you should just be able to say, you know what, let it occur in its own timing instead of trying to rush the timing when you're not even ready for the full extent of the blessing or whatever you would call it.
Yeah. Okay. Now we definitely got to do another episode. We're gonna talk about it offline, but thank you, Miss Keesh.
Thank you
out here just shining, just glowing. Hey. And I love the spirit, baby. I love the spirit.
Amen.
Thank you so much for coming here and blessing us. Okay, with your presence, with your story, with a word. Okay, and I can't wait to have you on next time.
Yes, absolutely. Take care, everybody. You can find me on Instagram.
You don't be on no Instagram, girl. Stop lying to these people.
You see me struggling trying to figure out.
She's like, what's my name? What is my
what's my username? Whatever.
She out here. She outside.
Out here.
Bye.
Bye.
Today's Connection Corner comes from our very own Miss Keesh. She says, if I cannot feel the feels, then how can I feel the blessings that will come? Thank you for joining us. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of the Oasis podcast. I hope you were able to find something that resonated with you on your journey. Don't forget to subscribe anywhere you listen to podcasts and YouTube. Rate us and leave us a review and comment on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, and YouTube. Share your favorite episode and like us on Instagram and Facebook. If you have any questions, comments, want to be a guest, or any show ideas, contact us at ajaysoasis@gmail.com. That's AAYJAYSOASIS@gmail.com. Or direct message us on Instagram